Lamar Jackson, non-exclusive franchise tag. The Ravens are, and I want to start there. And obviously, we're going to talk about this from a why should you care from a betting point of view. The Ravens, historically, one of the smartest franchises from an executive point of view, generally outside of wide receivers, make great draft picks, made a great trade in the middle of the season for linebacking help from the Bears. So they're playing this Lamar Jackson thing. They've made him an offer. Lamar Jackson wants all guaranteed money like Deshaun Watson. They have non-exclusive franchised him, meaning any team can make him an offer, and either the Ravens get a bunch of picks or they can match the offer. They're basically playing chicken with the guy and saying, we don't think you'll get the guaranteed offer you're looking for. Raybon, let me start with you. Do we think the Ravens are putting themselves in a position to be a really good bet for futures bettors?
I honestly don't think I do, but I don't think much is really. I mean, the Ravens are, but that's more because the Ravens are always a good bet. Like I remember last year, Stuckey and I were talking like the Ravens are probably the best value on the board. Now it didn't work out. We know what happened down the stretch. They collapsed, and they had the fumble and all that. But I really think that this is just a natural part of the negotiations because it makes sense. It kind of makes sense for both sides. For the Ravens, it's like we had our number. We're not going past it in terms of the guaranteed money, but we do want to keep you here. So, if you think that we're, kind of trying to lowball you, okay, here's the market. We'll let you test it with the protection, knowing that we either can now match it or get something back in return. So I don't think it's as contentious as the media is making it out to be. What I think is that most people writing about this, they've never been in a situation where and most people haven't, where they're negotiating for this kind of money, especially without an agent. And so it's like everyone's kind of mixing the business with the personal, where it's like, this is what's going to happen in a negotiation when you represent yourself. It's going to seem a little uglier than it really is, but I just think this is a natural part of negotiations. And I think one of the interesting things, and Simon, I wonder if you kind of noticed this too, but I'm seeing most books post odds Lamar's next team, if not the Ravens. What does that tell me? That books are just trying to rake in all this money from all these long shots, where in reality, I still think the Ravens are the most likely outcome. I do. So I just noticed that like a lot of books weren't posting the Ravens as an option on that list of the other teams. So I wonder if you kind of noticed that as well.
Yeah, I would say the most interesting to me about this whole Lamar thing is how sensitive people are to it. They're like, They can't get over that they made this deal. And it's just, I feel like what you said is off the top is a perfect thing. It's the Ravens. If there's an organization you should trust and value what they're doing, they're the team. So nothing to me is that shocking. There's a reason this guy was the 32nd pick and all these teams passed on. I think there's so many GMs that are just, I don't want to say old white guys, but it feels that way where they're just like, no, I want the 6'5" guy that stands in the pocket and throws the ball down the field. I don't want the 6'2" speedster that can run around the field and potentially get hurt. So people are like, oh, who are these teams that not want Lamar, a guy who's won the MVP? You have to change your entire offense to fit his scheme. So it's not that shocking. The more shocking part to me is that he's a good deal right now. If you do, all you have to do is give up 2 first-round picks and pay him. I know it sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to what someone just gave to Russell Wilson, it feels like a really good deal. When you compare it to what someone just gave to Deshaun Watson after the guy hadn't done anything in 2 years, it feels like a good deal. So I'm with him from that standpoint, but I'm from the standpoint of the GM, I don't know what I'd do here. It's a guy who's been injured in 2 back-to-back seasons. He's been injured. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. And you can go back and watch that film. The teams, when you get to the playoffs, it's a lot easier to scheme against a guy that's kind of a one-trick pony. And as much as I heard to say Lamar's a one-trick pony, he hasn't had the throwing downfield to make me confident that he can lead by passing, where it's always been the legs and the deception and the 4th and 2, the 4th and 1 runs that kind of takes him to a different level compared to other guys. So just standing from a distance, Chad, I don't know really what to make of this yet. It's the same thing as these Jets odds. These numbers have moved just off hearsay and rumors. And, Lamar, I can't see him leaving. It doesn't make sense that he would leave, but the offer they made to him was, you want to see what you want to see what your value is because you don't have an agent. We're going to show it to you. We'll let you take this tag, and anyone can make you an offer now. So to me, the The Ravens played it perfectly. They know the guy doesn't have an agent. They know the guy thinks he is way better and more valued than he really is because they gave him a good offer. You can go back and look. I think they offered him over 200 million. 132 of it was guaranteed. That's a good deal. That was a good deal they made Lamar. I think they kept in market value of him with Kyler Murray and other guys like that. So from a drama standpoint, yeah, it's interesting as a football fan, but as a gambler, I don't really know what to do with it, Chad. It's one of those where, like, yes, in this time of year, you should be all over the Ravens. You know, they didn't win the division last year. We saw them take it with a backup quarterback. They probably should have beat the Bengals in Cincy with a backup QB. So we love the Ravens. What are we supposed to do here? Because this is any team could step in right now and make him an offer. And yes, the Ravens could match it. But it is interesting. They even left the door open because we don't really see that, right, Chad? In 2023, our franchise quarterback, teams don't really do this. So I think not having an agent has played into this whole thing where, you know, we're seeing some GMs just being like, I don't want to change my team. I don't feel like dealing with a guy who doesn't even have an agent. Like it's too much of a headache. So there's a lot of baggage clearly with this Lamar Jackson. And once again, he's 1-3 in the playoffs. That's a big deal to a lot of GMs out there. So I think that's why people are trying to say it's more than all this. I don't think it is. I think this is a lot of stuff that these general managers are just weighing in right now on because it's such a big deal to make this kind of move for a quarterback like him.
You know, you talk about the GMs. I think this is owner driven. I think the reason a lot of teams have come out and said we're out on Lamar is essentially saying we're standing with each other. We do not want to make this the precedent. They view Watson as an outlier. They view the Browns as stupid for doing that. And they're saying, we're going to help you out. Because remember, the Ravens can match any offer if they want, you know? So now it comes down to, okay, which owner is going to make that offer? And whatever owner makes that offer, he's going to be an outcast among the rest of the owners. It's not just the Ravens are going to be upset if there's a massive offer that the Ravens can't match or it's fully guaranteed. Like 30 other owners probably, or, you know, 29, 30 other owners are going to be upset. So I think that's why we're hearing about this now and everyone's kind of scratching their heads. Oh my God, why would you be out on Lamar? Well, yeah, because we don't want to pay Derek Carr that money in a couple of years. We don't want to pay Jimmy Garoppolo that money in a couple of years. Look at all these average quarterbacks that are going to come. You know, look at Daniel Jones even right now. Like imagine he asked for 160 guaranteed instead of just, you know what I mean? So that's why we're hearing that. And I think that's why the media is so thrown off. Everyone's just like, it's like what's really going on, we're not going to know about until it's all said and done. And we may never know about, but that's what's really going on. It's just, these owners are not trying to pay anyone this kind of money.
It's really interesting you say that because I've seen that storyline. It's kind of it's not collusion by letter of the law, but it's collusion by letter of best interests and what is good for business. And if you think in the NFL there isn't some kind of whisper campaign that happens amongst GMs, my owner doesn't really want us to make this deal. My owner, you know, like all of a sudden that chain gets a little kinetic. 100% believe that this is an entire possibility and that there is this kind of campaign happening. Simon, you're shaking your head. This feels like real sort of, this feels like real game theory shit that's going on.
I agree with a lot of it, but I also think it's an overrated. Not that he's overrated, but he is. It's like the guy takes too many hits, and that's a big issue where he's not built like Jalen Hurts. Like he's not got these big lower body. He's not this huge jack guy. He's small, quick, and fast. And yes, I love watching Lamar play. I would hate for Lamar to be my quarterback. Like every time he runs the ball, you have to hold your breath because he takes these hits. And once again, we've seen it back-to-back years. He hasn't lasted. Tom Brady, 45 years old, he hadn't missed a game in 6 years, Chad. So to me, that's a big thing where like these guys I talk to, again, we'll talk about this Green Bay Jets thing, like with my sources in the league, all these people I talk to, it's just like you either really love Lamar and you love his playing style and you would love for him to be on your team, or you hate it and you don't trust it and you think he's kind of a flash in the pan. It's like, am I really about to give it a kid who's, what is he, 27, 5 years? And yeah, he'll run out when he's 32, but it's just, I don't know. To me, I'm one of those people, I just wouldn't do it. Like there's other guys I'd rather invest my money than Lamar, but at the asking price, I think it's a fair deal. Like if you're a team like the Jets who you've never had anything at the quarterback position, I'd make the move. Like 2 first rounders, no problem. We don't know the hell to pick first rounders anyway. move the first rounder. You guys can't draft quarterbacks anyway. So there's a couple of teams that would do it, but I'm with Raybon in the sense that because it's the Ravens, I pay them so much more respect. There's just such a smart organization. It's just like I'm with them. There's probably a lot of collusion behind the scenes, but there are also some teams that are just like, this ain't worth it. Like, this ain't worth me doing with Lamar. So it is the most poor, like, it's even to me more than Aaron Rodgers. I think this is a bigger deal where this will shift markets depending on where he goes. Like, if he goes to Miami, that's gonna make a huge shift. Him on that Miami offense would be insane. Like him with Tyreek Hill, with Waddle, that's crazy because no longer his whole career with the Ravens, he's faced a stacked box. He's never had that wide receiver that's taken the top off. I mean, you could say Hollywood Brown was that guy for him. Hollywood doesn't even compare to Tyreek Hill or Waddle. So that's the team I'm keeping my eye on with Miami, where it's like, I love those kind of moves or those dream scenarios of these teams. They want to take that risk on him. I think if you have the pieces around him, them or the Jets, those are two teams I would make the move. But Atlanta, why the hell would Atlanta sign Lamar? They're just not built for his style of play. So there's certain teams that just aren't built for it, where there's other teams that are.
Can I
To
say
that
one
point,
thing? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
I'll
yeah,
just say
go
one
ahead.
thing about Tom Brady. Kind of my generation. The man loves his vegetables. Okay?
Oh God. I was just gonna say, to the point of, the risk factor. I think the risk factor is the guaranteed money. And to be clear, like I want these dudes to get paid. I think people, get your money. But I will say this from an owner's perspective. The problem, because one of you mentioned, kind of business and good for business and what's not. Guaranteed contracts are not good for business, because what's going to happen if you start guaranteeing deals? Guys are going to get injured. We've seen that with Lamar. We've seen that with everybody. Guys are going to get injured. And then what's going to happen? You're going to have situations like with the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs. You're just going to have less talented players playing more because you have all your money tied up guaranteed into players that we guaranteed are going to get hurt too. So I think this is a serious issue for these owners. And that, like, personally, I actually don't think it's as reflective on Lamar as the principle behind this guaranteed money thing, because yes, Lamar has gotten hurt. You could question his durability. You could question, how good is his arm talent given the receivers he's had. But at the end of the day, anyone could get hurt. Like we've seen, Christian McCaffrey didn't get hurt for a while, and then he started getting hurt all the time. Got like Matthew Stafford was healthy for a lot of years, and then he started getting like, it's just everyone knows everyone's gonna get hurt. And so I think this guaranteed money, if that becomes precedent, that does pose a danger to the game in the future, because you're going to see more situations where you're just playing these more replacement level players. And that's why we're also talking about, should we bring back a third quarterback? These things are like heavily weighing on the league's mind, I believe.
What's interesting is what I heard from guys in the league. It's the Carson Wentz effect. The Carson Wentz thing is, you go back a couple of years, the Eagles gave him all that money. If that was all guaranteed, imagine what kind of hole the Eagles or even the Colts would have been in trading for him, where that's always the worry with these teams, where it's like, okay, a guy looks incredible on his rookie contract, you give him the money, and then they just fall apart. And I think that's another thing that's playing in here, where it's like, yeah, we don't mind paying you, Lamar, but we don't want to give you $200 million guaranteed. So I know we've beaten this to hell, but I do think it's one of the bigger moves this offseason that's going to dictate a lot going into March.
What do we think of, Simon? You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. It's nonstop conversation. I'm addicted to the New York Post. I read it nonstop. I check it more than I check anything else in my 5 minutes before a meeting, scroll. And it's all Aaron Rodgers. They met in California. What's happening? We've talked about this, but let's level set. Like the Jets right now on FanDuel, I'm looking in the Action Network app. They were about 28-1 to win the Super Bowl. That hasn't really changed much in the last, say, what's that?
It's down to 16-1 now in FanDuel.
No.
Yeah, wow. That happened 2 days ago. So, I'm Chris by the same spot. This is the time of year I have my alerts turned on for a lot of people, and like Schefter makes my heart drop. Like right before we came on, Schefter tweets out, "Trade, Jets agreed to send," and it's like, oh my god. And you read the rest of it. It's a 7th round pick for Chuck Clark, the safety. So it's been tough. Where like I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, because I've talked to a bunch of people that are good sources. I know someone that's really close to Rodgers. He's in his camp. It does seem like they want to see what they got in Jordan Love, and they're kind of over the whole Rodgers experience, right? So in the back of my mind, I honestly thought he was going to go back to Green Bay. And now talking to enough people, it seems like after his little trip into the darkness, he's come out and he's kind of wants to get out of Green Bay. He wants to move on, it seems like. And I think we all could agree here. The Jets feels like the best spot for him to go because they're such a complete team. Now, on the gambling side, if you were taking the Jets now at 16-1, that is a horrible bet. That's a horrible bet in an AFC that is so tough. Again, it'd be completely different if this was NFC, but in the AFC, to me, that's a bad bet. So I think it's interesting. So many people are running to the window to get the Jets at, they were at 25-1, they were at 20-1 and make this bet on this Jets team. I mean, Matt Mitchell knows it. It all still runs through Buffalo. So as much as I want to get on the Jets hype train, it feels like this is kind of like the Russell Wilson thing from last year, Chad, of it's been hyped up too much, numbers been bet up too much. Me and you aren't going to touch it. I know Chris is going to touch it. The value is all gone. So if you're one of these people that you made that bet on the Jets, you better hope he goes there, or else you have a dead ticket. Like this has no value if it's Jimmy Garoppolo or anyone else. So I'm interested to hear Chris's view on this. But for me, I'm not really doing anything with this anymore. Now I'll just sit back and wait and see what happens here. But to me, all the value is gone on betting the Jets.
Let's just shut this shit down with numbers. Like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to shut this shit down with numbers right now. Aaron Rodgers, this 2 MVP years, he led the league in QBR, 79.8, 69.1. Those are his 2 QBRs in his 2020 and 2021 season. Last year, his QBR went from 69-1 2 years ago to 39.3, lowest of his career. You want to hear the rest of the Jets quarterbacks QBRs last year? Remember, Rodgers is 39.3. Zach Wilson, 36.4. Joe Flacco, 34.2. Mike White, 36.9. Get this shit out of here. Rodgers ain't moving the needle at all. He's washed. He's done.
Listen,
don't say
this shit. Like, bro, this dude had to go to a dark room just to decide if he wanted to play football again. This will not end well. We saw it with Russ a couple years ago where it was like he was falling off. And then he goes to some place and everyone's like, oh, it'll be fixed again. And then it wasn't. It's like Rodgers looked like he was falling off like 5 years ago, came back, had like a resurgence. Okay, cool. But now he's clearly like his arm isn't as strong. He's throwing picks, which he never did. Like he could move. He's gonna be better than what the Jets had. Does he make him a Super Bowl contender? In my opinion, I don't think he moves the needle as much because I just don't think this is the same Aaron Rodgers that we were getting even 2 years ago. And even if he does, when has Aaron Rodgers gotten to the Super Bowl since, whenever he won his one ring? Like every year he goes to the playoffs and gets upset, usually at home. So really, he's making the Jets a Super Bowl contender with a QBR 3 points higher than Zach Wilson? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's been 12 years.
Raymond,
yeah.
I would say I think it was 2018, 2019. You wrote so many columns that proved Aaron Rodgers was on a downward slope in his career. And then he has these 2 amazing seasons, back-to-back MVPs, and then falls off a cliff again. Are you able to identify what happened that made him so special in those 2 years? Was it Matt LaFleur running a different game plan? Was it Aaron Rodgers listening to Matt LaFleur and last year he didn't? Like, what have you seen in any analysis that you've done?
So I think it did come down to game plan and coaching because McCarthy, he was with him his whole career. So that so we didn't really have too much of a a context perspective, I guess you could say. So then it's like, okay, because even his first LaFleur year, it wasn't great, but he started to pick up the offense. But now he's legitimately old. And if he does, and let's say you're talking about this year for the Jets, right? Well, Rodgers wasn't amazing in that first LaFleur year. It was the second and third that he was amazing in. So even if you're talking about it, I still think it would take some time, going to a new spot, this and that. So I really don't. And now he is old. So now whatever we thought perhaps could have been a physical decline a couple years ago, 4 years ago. Now I think it's real just from watching him play. Because the one thing about it, at least you could say the last time, was that he wasn't really. He was careful. He wasn't missing throws. He wasn't throwing picks and committing turnovers. That changed this year, and that's to me the biggest red flag. And again, the QBRs in those years where he looked like he was declining, they were still in the 50s, 58, 52. This is 39.1. This is a career low. Like we're in a whole different tier of sucking or not playing up to potential for Aaron Rodgers now. So, fool me once, shame on you, but I just don't think it's realistic to expect him. Like, not everybody's Tom Brady, and I just don't think it's realistic, especially year one on a new team, to expect him to go back to MVP form.
Look, I think it's pretty clear that if you're grading old people, Tom Brady, Chad Millman, then after that, Simon and Raybon, Daniel Jones, another quarterback, signed a huge deal. Jimmy G still out there, obviously. Aaron Rodgers out there. Derek Carr just signed in New Orleans. None of these feel like needle movers for me if I'm looking at the futures board and saying, is there a potential opportunity that will make one team significantly better and move their odds if they were to get a Jimmy G or somebody like that? What are you seeing? And I want Daniel Jones to be the next question, so we don't have to touch on Daniel Jones next. But right now, is there a needle mover for you at the quarterback position that can change odds for a team like that you're looking at? Carolina getting Jimmy G. Does that do something, as an example?
I mean, it'd be great. I'd be happy for Carolina, but no, it doesn't move the needle for me. We talk all the time, Chad. There's literally 12 guys that are really, game-changing quarterbacks in the league. The rest of it are just kind of pawns that need good stuff around them to make it a better situation. So as much as I want to get on the Jimmy G hype train, the guy is always hurt, and we've never really seen him do anything. Like, you can say, well, he took the 49ers to the Super Bowl and all this other stuff. Come on now. Anyone knows that wasn't him. If you go back and watch, especially in the NFC Championship game when they played Green Bay, I think they ran the ball 50 times and he threw the ball 5 times. Like, it's just – Jimmy ain't that guy. Jimmy's a good game manager. The Panthers, they don't need a game manager. They need a game changer. Like, they have a lot of good talent, but compared to the 49ers, compared to the Rams, compared to the Eagles, Cowboys even, I just don't think the Panthers are on the same level. So nothing – like, even Derek Carr, like you just talked about, I might put some money on Derek Carr right now to win that division because he's the best quarterback in that division right now. But the Saints Super Bowl futures, no. Like, I'm not putting any money on that. So I don't know about Chris, but none of these moves have really done anything for me. It's not – I mean, that's normally how it is in the offseason. That's why, to me, Lamar, that would be the most crazy movement, an earth-shattering movement, because Lamar on the right team, that's a big deal. Like, that moves the odds to me. All these other guys, not really, Chad. They don't really do much for me.
Yeah, it's – it's a needle mover? Getting an elite quarterback on a rookie deal. We're talking about free agent quarterbacks, and so that's just not going to move the needle. It's not to say that a team that has signed one of these couldn't end up making a run, but in terms of are we projecting that now? Is that moving the needle, so to speak? Not in my opinion, because I think the real needle movers are, having Joe Burrow on a rookie deal, having Josh Allen on a rookie deal, things like that, or having, Patrick Mahomes, who is just amazing. The Rams kind of did it, they kind of spoiled us, I think, because they had like the perfect storm. They got Stafford, who I think is better than the quarterbacks out there this time. I think Stafford will go down as having played at a higher level during the Rams Super Bowl year than Aaron Rodgers will play this year, wherever he goes. So I just think that between the quality of the quarterback and the fact that you are having to tie up significant cap space in these quarterbacks, I don't think they're needle movers.
Well, look, I think that's a really good point about quarterbacks on a rookie deal. We got spoiled not just by Stafford, but by Brady, because we had two seasons in a row where veteran quarterbacks changed teams. People made money on futures markets by projecting where they were going to go.
Yep.
But you're 100% right. You got to look at the teams that have quarterbacks on the ascent that are on rookie deals and have good rosters around them. That's where you're going to make your money in the futures market right now. And to me, that would eliminate the New York Football Giants from this conversation potentially for the next 5 years because of signing Daniel Jones.
It's not a needle mover. when you start looking at the free agent market, you you do understand why the Giants went with Jones and just gave him the money. At least he runs. That's about the only good thing, but he's not a needle mover. I think the Giants actually do have more upside than some of those other teams because I think their coaching staff and front office has already proven that they can do more with less. So if there is any team that I'm saying, okay, now what are you going to do with this guy who's it's still not, you're not paying him top flight quarterback money. That market always is exploding more and more, but okay, what can you do with this kind of thing, with this kind of roster? I mean, there is some upside there, but remember when Daboll was in Buffalo, you still had Josh on a rookie deal. So it's the same thing. It's just, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be very tempting to us, and everyone's going to make a case for one or the other, this or that. At the end of the day, it's gonna be either teams with the super, because remember Brady was a super elite quarterback too. It's not just the Bucs signed or acquired Brady. It was Brady's the GOAT, right? So none of these dudes are the GOAT. Aaron Rodgers, he has that upside, but I don't see it for him. And then Daniel Jones, it just puts you in that purgatory, in my opinion. And you're gonna see teams. It's probably gonna be one of these teams that draft one of these quarterbacks, to be honest. In the draft, there's a few quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks I think that people feel could be legit, and maybe 4, and it's probably gonna be one of those teams that are gonna just jump all these teams that we're talking about right now. Or maybe it's the Bears, your Bears, Chad, with the most cap space in the league, sitting on that number 1 pick with a quarterback that on his rookie deal that you could probably build with.
Well, that's
so Daniel Jones.
Go ahead. Well, go ahead, Simon, because I got a question.
I was say Daniel Jones' agent, that guy might be the real MVP. I did not see him getting anything close to this number, just for the simple fact of, Daniel Jones, yes, he can run the ball, and he had no wide receivers, but we also have a lot of film on him for these last couple of years, and he did take a major step this year, and they did make the playoffs, and that's all great, but a lot has to do with, they're going to be able to build a good team around him because they had him on a cheap deal.
Yep.
Now that's kind of out the window, where it reminds me of the Tannehill situation. Like Tennessee had to pay Tannehill, then they had to let A.J. Brown walk. Now they're looking to move Derrick Henry. It's like all of a sudden that money starts getting really tight when you pay your quarterback that amount of money. This ain't no Mahomes scenario, right? Mahomes is the unicorn. I know the cap space had moved up and everything like that, and that's why they're able to give more money here to Daniel Jones, but just an incredible negotiation by whoever his agent is. I can't believe he's able to get this amount of money. But as an Eagles fan, I'm ecstatic. Like, I'm very happy they're paying this man this amount of money. Because to me, I feel like Chris is nailed on the head. The move would have been you trade him for some assets and you just draft some guy this year. Because that's how much that rookie pay scale really factored into it. Me and Chad, we talk every offseason. Like, we make these crazy bets like the Jaguars last year. Why did we make that bet? Because they're paying nothing to Trevor Lawrence, and they can go out and sign all these receivers. And again, Calvin Ridley this year, that's going to be on this team with the Jaguars teams. They can make that move because they're not paying Trevor Lawrence that much money. So as much as I am all about the players getting their money, like, I'm happy for Daniel Jones getting his money. That hurt the team. Like, that's going to hurt the Giants to be able to sign players to put around him. So I disagree with it at his basis, but what else were they really supposed to do? Like, to me, they didn't really have that many options. He fits their scheme the best. Their head coach clearly likes the kid. He's the one that stuck up for him and said, let's pay the kid. I think I can win with him. So we know it is. NFL coaches, they tied themselves to these QBs. So if Daboll says this guy is legit, I'm going to believe it because I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. So I can't, as much as I want to shit on the money and how much they're paying him, the Giants are a good, well-run organization. Like, they know what they're doing. So I'm going to trust them and say they're probably making the smart move here. But outside looking in, I'm like, this is a completely disaster. So I'm interested to hear how you view it, Chad.
Well, I thought it was crazy. Like, I'm not a fan of a guy has one good year in a situation in which there's an entirely new system. So people are still trying to figure it out. And Daboll is a really good coach, but things went perfect, almost perfect for the Giants.
Yeah, they won like every coin flip game.
They won every coin flip game. Everything went the right way. Part of that is Daboll, good coaching, good strategic decision making. Saquon Barkley basically being healthy. They had no receivers, which makes it even more interesting. But I it's like they did what they had to do to put themselves in a position to succeed and give them the flexibility as much as they're paying them, because you do this deal and then you can franchise Saquon instead of franchising Jones and then losing Saquon. So I understand why they did it. Here's my question. Go ahead, Raybon, you want to say something?
I was just going to say the one gamble I think they're making, because on the surface, paying that money to Jones, you could be with that coaching staff, with the ability that they have, as Simon said, well-run organization. You could kind of do what the Giants did this year. You could get to the playoffs. You could win a game, but you're going to run into a team like the Eagles. But the one bet I'm guessing the Giants are making when they signed this deal was that the Eagles are going to have to pay Jalen Hurts pretty soon. He's going to command like $250 million. Now the playing field is leveled a little more. Now you're saying, okay, we might just have a leg up on building a team. Because, like, look at the Eagles. It's like, oh, they might lose Bradbury. They might lose Gardner. Like, their team is going to start to break up a little bit. So I think that's kind of the bet the Giants are making, that if we can pay a quarterback, maybe like 30% less than the Eagles are, now we have a fighting chance to build a roster that at least can compete. Because the NFC is always wide open every year. Like every year. And now that Rodgers is leaving, it's even, I would say, and Brady too, it's even more wide open. So I think that's the bet the Giants are making.
So Jones. I'm glad you raised that, because the question I wanted to ask was, we're all NFC fans. If you could choose one team from each division most likely to win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years, and the NFC East is going to be a challenge, given what Raybon just said, and the Eagles having a lot of cap challenges coming up, who is the team you choose from each division that you would bet on? You have to make a bet on each one of these teams to win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. Who do you choose from each division? I know who I'm choosing. I'm choosing the Bears. I'm choosing I think I'm taking the Giants. I think I'm taking the Panthers. And I think I'm taking the Niners. Simon, who are you taking?
I would definitely go Eagles. I think they got the best young talent in our division. I mean, it's tough because I do want to say Carolina Panthers. Like, as much as I want to take Atlanta, I guess you're right with the Panthers. I mean, they just have such a good defense. Got to go 49ers once again. But yeah, this is like the tough part of like picking these teams, where it's like, as much as I love the Bears, Chad, I don't know if I trust your GM yet. Like, I got no real feel on this guy. Again, he's got $100 million to work with in cap space. There's a lot of good free agents, a lot of O-line he can add. So maybe this will change once we get close to the season, but I'm still going to go with Green Bay. Like, again, I have no read on Jordan Love. I just trust that organization. They're just, again, you want to do a pouty face. When was your last Super Bowl, Chad?
I'm just surprised you would say Green Bay instead of Detroit in this scenario. Like, Green Bay
too much smoke. Too much love for Detroit. Like, they're like the Jets to me. This is when you want to get out. When you look at Detroit as the favorite in the North, bet anyone but Detroit. That's where you're going to find value. Anyone but Detroit, because that's just, the public's really stupid. That's why we even talk about Anthony Richardson, and we'll talk more draft. All these guys online, they're like, have you watched his college tape? Have you seen how bad this kid is? That's what you want. You want a guy like Josh Allen, when people are just shitting on a guy in the whole draft process. That's what you want. The public is really stupid. So the fact that the public loves Detroit, that feels like a dead bet this year coming into the season, where it's like,
I'm talking
Jordan Love can surprise people.
It's 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah, I'm thinking 5 years. Like, you're backing Jared Goff for the next 5 years. I'd rather take the upside on a rookie contract of Jordan Love on a rookie deal of the next 5 years compared to Jared Goff, which is, I think he's the third highest paid quarterback in football right now.
All right, Raybon.
I'll go Giants in the East, but it's really close because Howie for the Eagles has been excellent. But I do think the Giants did make an interesting bet on, okay, what's going to happen when the Eagles have to extend Hurts. So just because the Giants right now, they have a lot of upside, like we haven't necessarily seen any downside yet. It's only you're going into year 2. So I'd take them. It's close. Take Detroit in the North, because I'm kind of with Simon in the sense that I don't know if I trust. I like the Bears situation cap wise, quarterback wise, but I haven't seen enough from their coach or GM to say that they can get over the hump, where I think the Lions have been making generally smart moves, and they're not necessarily tied to Goff. Like, I think the Lions are actually the leaders in the Lamar Jackson, if not Ravens odds. So like, I think the Lions, with the Packers doing what they're doing, and the Vikings really weren't a good team. I think I would take the Lions future. I would still take the Falcons in the South. I think the Panthers are going to be more mediocre, and I don't again, not a coaching staff or front office that I really have any faith in. Whereas I think the Falcons, it's either they're gonna switch, like they're gonna either switch coaching staffs or front offices, and they're still gonna be in a pretty good position, or they're gonna take a big step. So I go Falcons, and then 49ers in the West, just because they've just proven that, like, their talent acquisition. You know, if you can find a third string quarterback the way they did, and they've gotten to Super Bowls or gotten close to the Super Bowl with a lot, with Jimmy, and then with Purdy, like it's hard to bet against them. So definitely Niners. With what's going on in the West.
All right, so we all agree on the Niners, and then we disagree on every other division, which is
well, I wrote down your guys' Giants takes because this is going to age like milk. Both you guys taking the Giants for the next 5 years.
I said it was close. To be fair, I'm just saying it's like to be honest, like, we've seen the Giants, when they are a well-run organization, win Super Bowls that they have no business winning.
They're all gone though. They haven't drafted well in 5 years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Now we have guys. You said it yourself. This is again a well-run organization. We're talking 5 years, right? In year one, they ridiculously exceeded expectations. I'm just saying that puts them in. It's like they could go real low, but we're talking 5 years. You want upside. The Cowboys.
You wouldn't be shocked if they go.
Cowboys are always going to be 9 to 10, huh?
You wouldn't be shocked if they go 4-12 this year.
No, but that's I wouldn't be shocked if they go 4-12. I wouldn't be shocked for the next 5 years. I wouldn't be shocked if they bottomed out again. But I also wouldn't be shocked if they stole a Super Bowl like those 2011 Giants. And remember, Daniel Jones. Remember Eli Manning? He sucked until he did it. You know what I mean? Like, even during the Super Bowl runs, like, a lot of people are like, I don't know about this guy. So that's why I say the Giants. It's close though, because the Eagles have proven that they can do a lot of things. So I think it's 2-team race, whereas I think the Cowboys, they're always going to be in that purgatory, right? They're always going to be in that like 8 to 10, 11 win purgatory. And then Washington is just kind of, I just don't trust upstairs, for them.
I love it. It's great having Raybon back on the podcast.